I was already holding the keys. We had our shoes on. Neither of us had said anything for a while. I remember looking at the tent door and thinking we could wait. Just sit there until it got light out. Another hour, maybe 2. But the longer we sat there, the harder it got to stay put. My girlfriend and I had been together about 3 years. We'd camped before, just not like this. State parks, marked sites, people nearby. This time we drove 4 miles off the main road into national forest land and found a clearing set back from the road. No other cars, no signal, no one coming through unless they meant to. It was a Friday afternoon in late October. Leaves just past peak, that late gold light cutting sideways through the canopy, cold enough to feel clean. The Forest Service road was gravel, single lane, winding back into the mountains off the state highway. Steep drop on the left, rock cut on the right, no guardrails. We hadn't passed another vehicle since we turned off the pavement. 4 miles of gravel and nothing. No cars at any of the clearings we passed. No dust hanging in the air. No fresh tire tracks in the mud at the pull-offs. I figured we'd timed it right. Weeknight, late season. The clearing was ringed on 3 sides by hemlocks and hardwoods, thick enough that you couldn't see the road until you were right on top of it. Good flat ground. Old fire ring with charred logs still in it. Looked like people had been using it for years. We set up the tent, got a fire going, sat in our camp chairs with beers, and watched the light drain out through the trees. Mountains went from gold to purple to black. Stars came out hard the way they do when there's no light pollution for miles. A barred owl started up somewhere down the hollow, and in the gaps between calls, the quiet went a beat too long. But I was comfortable, and I let it go. My girlfriend leaned over and put her head on my shoulder. I remember thinking this was the best thing we'd done all year. That was before the truck. We'd been asleep maybe 2 hours when headlights swept across the tent. I heard the engine before I was fully awake. Diesel, old and heavy, rattling in the frame at idle. I lay there for a second, then unzipped the corner of the rainfly just enough to look out. The clearing was big, 60, maybe 70 yards of open ground between our tent and the road. Room for 4 or 5 camps. The truck came down the access track and pulled in and just kept coming. Past the near end, past the middle, all the way across to our side. Stopped maybe 40 feet from us. Not 40 feet from the edge of the clearing, 40 feet from our tent. All that open space sitting empty behind them. Engine idled a few seconds before it cut off. Headlights stayed on, pointed at our tent. Then they went dark, and I couldn't see anything while my eyes adjusted. One of them got out. Before he did anything else, before he went to the truck bed, before the other one moved, he stopped and looked at our tent. Just stood there looking at it. 2 seconds. 3. Then he turned and went around back. They unloaded gear, built a fire, put 2 camp chairs down in front of it. The chairs were facing our tent, not their fire. Us. I watched all of this through a 2-inch gap in the rainfly. Told myself it was just how the clearing was laid out. Our tent happened to be in that direction. I zipped the fly back up. My girlfriend was awake. I could see her eyes in the dark, watching me. I told her it was just 2 guys setting up camp and that they'd settle down. She didn't say anything. I could feel it in the way she was lying there, completely still, listening. I didn't believe it. About 20 minutes later, boots on dirt, coming toward us. Then 2 knocks on the tent pole, light and deliberate. I unzipped the tent door. One of them was standing there, holding a flashlight at chest height, the spill catching my eyes. Smiling. Mid-40s, heavy through the shoulders, ball cap, flannel jacket, beard that hadn't been trimmed in a while. Normal looking, forgettable. He said he was sorry to bother us. Just wanted to say hello and let us know they were there so we didn't get startled. He didn't sound sorry. He sounded settled. Like he'd been out here for hours and we were the ones who had just shown up. I looked past his shoulder. The other one was still in his chair by the fire. He wasn't watching us talk. He was watching the tent. the space behind me where my girlfriend was. I told him we appreciated it, that we were just turning in. He nodded. Then his eyes moved past me into the tent. Not a glance. He looked. Took a few seconds going over the interior. My girlfriend in her sleeping bag. Our packs along the back wall, the whole layout. Then he asked if it was just the two of us out here. I said yes. Same smile. Hadn't changed once. Same expression for everything. Like it wasn't connected to anything being said. Just sitting on his face. He stood there a moment longer than he needed to. Turned and walked back to their fire. I zipped the tent. My girlfriend's hand found my arm in the dark and squeezed. We didn't speak. About an hour later, he was back. Said he'd heard something moving in the tree line on the south side of our camp. Wanted to make sure we were okay. I unzipped the door and watched him walk the edge of the hemlocks with his flashlight. Slow, thorough, taking his time. He wasn't going to find anything. It didn't matter. When he came back, he asked if we were carrying anything for protection. I told him we were fine. He said sure, just being neighborly, that these forest roads got rough traffic at night sometimes. People who came out here to do things they couldn't do in town. Said it like he was warning us, like the danger was somewhere else. He went back to his fire. 40 minutes after that, the other one came over. He'd been completely silent until now. Hadn't said a word since they arrived. Told me his phone was dead and asked if he could charge it off our car. I said we couldn't help him. He said thanks. The entire time his eyes were on the tent behind me. Not on me, on the tent, on my girlfriend. Every second of it. Her fingers dug into my forearm hard enough to leave marks. I looked at the time, just after 2 in the morning. And then I looked at the truck. I'd noticed it earlier and ignored it. The truck was backed in at an angle. Not driver's side toward the road for an easy exit. It was backed in and positioned between our camp and the access track. The gap between their front bumper and the nearest hemlock was maybe 10 or 12 feet. Enough to get a car through if you knew it was there. In the dark, under pressure, not knowing the clearing, you probably wouldn't find it. You'd see the truck blocking the line and hesitate, even 5 seconds. He'd stop the truck, and before he got out, before he did anything, he'd looked at our tent. The truck was already in that position before he stepped out of the cab. He hadn't adjusted, hadn't pulled forward and backed up. He'd put it exactly where he wanted it on the first try. My stomach dropped, all at once. You don't park like that by accident. And you don't get it right the first time unless you already know the clearing. I told my girlfriend we'd wait for light. She didn't respond. I could feel her breathing against my arm. Fast and shallow. We stopped responding. Go quiet. Stop engaging. Don't open the tent again. She had the bear spray. I had my knife. We lay there. They went quiet too. Like a switch. Talking stopped. Movement stopped. Their camp went almost silent. Every few minutes, a boot on gravel, a chair creak, a log settling. Just enough to know they were there, awake, facing us. I kept trying to tell myself this was nothing. 2 guys camping too close, a little inconsiderate. I kept reaching for that and it kept falling apart because none of it fit together like carelessness. Then footsteps. Not toward the door. Around the side. Slow. A full lap around the tent, maybe 4 feet from the fabric. Past our feet. Along the far wall. Past our heads. All the way around. Then it stopped. East side. Solid wall. No door, no mesh. Right where my head was. Nothing. No knock. No voice. His shadow came through the tent wall from the fire behind him. Shape of a person standing still. I could hear him breathing. I could smell wood smoke on him through the fabric. His boot shifted in the dirt. Settled. And then he just stood there. My girlfriend had both hands around my arm. I could feel her pulse through her fingers. Neither of us was breathing. The shadow filled the wall. It didn't move, didn't sway. 2 minutes. Maybe 3. Then the shadow moved. Footsteps going back, and it was done. Forest went quiet. Owl gone. Fire crackling down. Just the creak of a chair every few minutes. Temperature dropped. My jaw was clenched so tight my teeth ached. I was rationing breaths, shallow sips through my nose, trying to be silent. The effort of holding that still was exhausting, every muscle locked. At some point I realized I could hear them. From their camp, 40 feet out. 2 sets of breathing. Slow, steady, awake, sitting and watching. I lay there going through it, counting us, armed or not, eyes on her, truck placed before he got out. Both of them going quiet the second we did. The lap, the standing. Every piece right up against a line, not one step over. The second there was enough gray to see shapes, I started moving. We didn't pack, didn't touch the tent, didn't grab the chairs or the cooler or the sleeping bags. Keys, phones, wallets. We crawled out. I looked over at their camp. Both of them in their chairs, fire dead, heads down, bodies hadn't moved, same position, same angle. I don't know if they were sleeping. I don't think they were. We walked to the car. I was trying to look normal. Early start, no big deal. Gravel loud under our feet. 3-point turn. On the first point, their bumper was close enough to read through my windshield. On the second point, my headlights swept across their chairs. One of them was already looking at us. Body still. Hadn't moved from the chair. Just the head. Raised and turned toward us. It followed the car as I came around. No hand, no wave. Just the head. Tracking. I got on the access track. Gravel popping. Headlights cutting a narrow tunnel through the trees. 4 miles in the half-dark with the drop on one side and the rock wall on the other, and my hands shaking on the wheel. My girlfriend had her hand on my leg, gripping. I drove faster than I should have. Hit a pothole hard enough to bottom out. Didn't slow down. When we hit the state highway, I turned downhill and didn't stop until we were in a town with streetlights and a gas station with the fluorescents on and other cars in the lot. Normal cars. Normal people paying for coffee. I pulled in, engine off. My fingers had locked around the wheel, and I had to peel them off one at a time. My girlfriend put both hands over her face and bent forward and made a sound I'd never heard from her. Not crying, more like something being released. I put my hand on her back and counted the cars in the parking lot. I needed to count something. We called the Forest Service ranger station once we had signal. Someone called back that afternoon. Took notes. Asked me to describe the truck and the 2 men, and I did. And the descriptions could have fit half the trucks and half the men in that part of the state. He said he'd look into it. Nothing came of it. Because technically, nothing happened. 2 men camped near us in a public clearing and came over a few times. That's the whole story if you need it to be. We went back for our gear 2 weeks later. Middle of the day. I brought a friend. Clearing was empty. Tent still standing. Chairs still out. Cooler where we'd left it. Nothing taken. Except the fire ring. When we'd set up on Friday, there was an old ring with charred logs and ash. When we came back, it was different. Fresh ash. Recent burn marks on new wood. Split firewood stacked next to it that hadn't been there before. Someone had come back after we left, built a fire, sat there, with our tent still standing, our chairs still out. My friend asked if it was probably just another camper. I said probably. We packed our stuff and left. I still go camping. Campgrounds with numbered sites and a host on duty. My girlfriend won't go at all. She stopped after that trip and she's never said why, and I've never asked. People ask if I think anything would have actually happened. They want me to say no. And the honest answer is, I don't know. I don't know what would have happened if we'd opened that tent one more time, if we'd been deeper asleep, if we hadn't left at first light. But I know a man who parks a truck across your only exit before he gets out of the cab has thought about exits before. And I know that clearing, how you couldn't see it from the road. Flat ground, tree cover on 3 sides, fire ring already built. The kind of place two people would find and feel lucky. Or the kind of place you'd pick for someone else. If this story stayed with you, consider subscribing. There's always another one coming.